Someone asked me 2 days ago, what is déjà vu and why do we get it? And this question was asked to me when I was at the point of being completely out of it. Like, I was done out there. So, his question resulted in me giving about a 25-minute explanation on my opinion and why it is. And the recollection of that now, 2 days later, sober, is making me want to make a video on it. So I'm going to, and it won't be 25 minutes, I will try to succinct it. So, basically, everyone should know déjà vu, but I think there's some kind of confusion that certain people feel some sort of nostalgia and like, ooh, déjà vu, but that's not exactly it, but you probably will have or will feel déjà vu at some point. Everyone must feel it, like, at least once. It's basically like this overwhelming, numbing sense where some trigger that you can't place just kicks you out of your head into a sort of memory that you don't have, but have. You're like, oh, I've been here before, I've heard this before, I've seen this before, I've done this before, but you haven't. There's no recollectable example of such a thing happening, and it's not like you've simply forgotten it. You just haven't. So why'd you get here? And it is genuinely paralysing. And there are extremities to it. Sometimes it's just a few seconds, 5 seconds, you get it and you're stood still, kind of like this. But I've had times where it's hit me and I've literally done like anime style lean against the wall and slowly stoop down to sitting down because it is such an extreme override on your brain. And it's so weird, and it's one of those things we have no explanation for. And because I am so qualified for this, I'm gonna somewhat give my expert opinion. So first, you've got to take into account where it comes from. So you think memories, okay, it's memories, but then you think, well, it's not memories, it might be memory-centric, but because it's not remembering an exact memory, it can't so much be like wherever memories are stored, because the exact memory you're remembering is not stored because it doesn't exist as far as you know. So that rules the majority of the mind out, the known mind, basically. So where do we go from there? We jump to the soul. Okay, what about the soul? Any theory, any thought, any idea of the soul runs on this basic premise. The soul and the mind are not compatible. They work on completely different levels. Some say the soul is far above the mind, some say it's not above, some say it's the same level, but regardless, they just are not the same. They do not work the same. It's like calling a wallet and a telephone the same thing. They are not the same. So, what if déjà vu is these moments where memories tapped into the soul, which, you know, could be tapped into sort of a greater memory bank, perhaps even a universal memory bank of, you know, every instance, sort of like Plato's forms, like world of forms, or maybe, you know, the memories of your past lives if you're a reincarnationist. Like, if that exists somewhere, which, sure, it could, there's no way for us to prove it now, but there's no way for us to disprove it. So we can't just devalue the argument. So, for the sake of it, let's say, yeah, okay, what if that exists? And it's just somewhere in a state of opposite other being, in a sort of plane that is not accessible by human sense. Then what if déjà vu is the instances where that loosely, very simply taps into our mind, you know? A small little smidge gets in to our brain. Our small brains of low processing power try to take in this source of information from this spiritual bank, but because it's not built to compute with soul type things, It just snaps and we get this temporary, malfunction. We go sort of haywire. So what if it is just one piece of information from a higher sense of ourselves coming into our physical sense of self, into our brain, but because it's not built to handle that, we get that numb, debilitating instance. And maybe, they get stronger as we experience them. Or maybe when we die, we tap into this entire source without even knowing it, because we could never know it physically. So you can never debunk it. So just think about that. Think about how there could be something, and there well and truly might be something of that extremity existing on a plane far beyond ours, with the capacity to at times sink into our own heads, and yet our brains can't handle it, and just give us that weird feeling we've given a French name and accept as a sort of psychological funny.